All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Herding Squirrels, a podcast about modern teams. Today, we're excited to bring to you Frédéric Rivain. Frédéric, welcome. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. We're so excited to have you and chat about your leadership and team experience. For our audience, Frederic is the Chief Technology Officer at Dashlane, a leading cybersecurity company specializing in credential management and digital identity solutions. With over 2 decades of experience in tech leadership, Frederic drives innovation in security and privacy. A passionate advocate for user-centric security, he brings a unique perspective on blending convenience and robust protection for both individuals and businesses. Awesome.
I
Well,
see.
Frederic,
That was very serious.
that was very serious, right? So, Frederic, are you set? Do you have your Legos in front of you ready to
Yeah,
go?
I have.
Perfect. All right, so we are just going to jump into our first build. I want you to build a model that tells a story about who you are outside of work. Frederic, I want to see yours.
So mine is a bit abstract,
Awesome. All the
and I
way.
hope it's going to not break completely. But so it's also a family story. I'm like I said, I have three daughters. So I'm going to turn it that way. So each eye, because there are three eyes, is one of my daughters. The yellow one is Valentine, and the reason she's at a yellow block, and the black plate was essentially the family construct, and she's starting to go out of the family construct because she's 16, and we're already starting to talk about college and stuff like this. So she's starting to inch outside of the family, but she's a sort of a the eldest elder daughter, so she's the one with the flag for her sisters, and then oops. Then you have Charlotte with the little eye in the middle, and Camille is the little one, even though she's the highest, like she's the little one as well. I did put the character here because my character has a woman's face, and so that's kind of my wife like supervising and making sure that the whole family is going okay. And then actually that I reused part of my tower, and this is to meant to reflect the fact that we are actually in the US, sort of not isolated, but we're in the US when the rest of the family is in France on the other side of that bridge or on the other side of the ocean, technically because they're in France. So, yeah, so that was my thing. And no, there's one last concept here. Okay, that breaks completely. The one last concept is that I put that little ladder close to my family. I could do it the other way around, but I put a ladder, so meaning that okay, our role as parents is to help the kids like climb the ladder of life and develop and grow in their own way. So
Oh, what a great use of the ladder. That's fantastic.
yeah.
Oh, Frederic, thank you so much. Do you get back to France often?
I do because we have our Paris office, so I go back to Paris for work regularly, and we go with the whole family usually in the summer. So we'll be back in Paris, I mean France in general, for almost 6 weeks this summer,
Oh, that's
which
fantastic.
is
And
also a way to escape the heat from New York.
yeah, it's the time. It's a good time to get out of town.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
wonderful. Awesome. Frederic, thank you so much for sharing. I love your model. This is it. That's it for Lego Serious Play. There's no more tricks, so this is it. We're just building stories. So with that, I want to jump into the team-based builds.
Yeah.
And so thinking of the idea of team, right? What I'd like to do is really have you think back of what was your best team experience you've ever been a part of. And maybe it's where you're at right now, but I want you to think of your most memorable team experience and build a model that shows why that team experience was so great and what you think made it so amazing. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right.
So it's
Frederick,
a
oh,
pretty simple build, but I'll explain. So essentially, for me, the and by the way, when I think about teams, I think about a groups of people. So that applies both in the product in the work environment. It actually also applies in the non-work environment because you also have teams that are outside of work, and you're talking about basketball teams. That's kind of the same. So for me, the teams that have been the most well functioning or the best teams in the sense are the ones that one have a shared mission or a shared vision, and that's kind of what the flag is representing. Like, okay, we all go in the same direction, we all know where we're going, and we all want to go to the same direction, which allows you to have a alignment and consistency of orientation, let's say. And the second big piece of it has been the sort of the unity of the team. And I've put different blocks of red because it doesn't mean that there's everybody's the same. You can have variation, but at least there's uh, um, a a consistency to the way you're thinking about things, and you have achieved a certain level of trust, of intimacy, of understanding of each other, so that when things are good, everything is good, but when things are bad, you're also able to go through those moments as a group together without the team exploding. Um, the one thing that I haven't reflected here, which is probably more important in the work environment, but I could argue also matters in other environments, is of course you want people to have skills and to be able to contribute and so on. But in a way, that's something that if the team is united and so on, that you can develop and build even when someone's coming with a background where there is less skill in a sense. So it's really a question of the yes, the appetite or the will to work together.
I'm taking many notes, even though I know this is being recorded. There's so many key words that you've thrown out there, and just a couple that really stood out because you repeated them multiple times. Unity, you used unity and united a few times, and then consistency. Both areas within the mission and values, and with how the team works together. How do you build consistency and unity in teams, or what would your recommendation be into building unity and
Well,
consistency?
the first thing is that for me, you need to be intentional about it. It doesn't happen by magic. Of course, you can be lucky and have a group that where everybody will fit well together and so on. But in reality, in life, you don't necessarily choose who you're going to work with. You don't necessarily choose who's going to be part of the team. When you're in a leadership role, maybe you have a bit more say. But even so, like when I joined Dashlane, I inherited the existing Dashlane team, and then we hired people in time, and that created another version of the team and so on. So you need to be intentional about it. You need to I think spend the time to get to know each other. And here I'm talking about both on at a work level, but also on a personal level. I'm a very big believer about the importance of having some form of intimacy as part of the group. And it doesn't mean that you need to know everything about everybody, but at least you are able to be vulnerable, to share what's happening in your life. And I do share a lot of what's happening in my life, the good and the bad, with my teammates, and even the ones that I know a bit less, just to show that I'm a human being and I'm not that a CTO in his bubble far away from in the stars. So that matters, and that's also what makes people be closer together and able to understand each other better. So very important. Communication, obviously, and transparency goes along with that. And when you need help, you ask for help. When you're happy, you share your happiness. When you're unhappy, you share why you're unhappy. And there's a lot of flavors behind it, but that's kind of the what matters.
I really love the word intimacy. I think that really breaks down the relationship part of us being human together. Right, we're not a two-dimensional transaction. There's more depth and dimension to
Yeah.
all of us outside of our working self.
And I guess you're familiar with, I mean, I use the word intimacy because it's also from the trust equation, which I don't even remember who built that, but there's the trust equation with, I don't remember it by heart, but there's credibility, intimacy, and self-awareness in there, and all those dimensions are, of course, very important, but to build a group, I think the one that where people struggle usually the most is intimacy, and especially in the work environment.
Fantastic. This is so great. I want to jump to our next build,
Yeah.
and I want to flip to the opposite side of this. And let's look at the other side of teams, because I'm guessing in your experience, not all of the teams you've worked on have been fantastic or with.
No.
So I want you to think of the other side of this. I want you to think of what is the worst team experience you've ever been a part of. What was the scenario, and why do you think it was that way? Uh, Frederic, let's see your model.
So here's my model. So there are different components to the model. The first one is how do you call it in English? It's a girouette in French. So you know that thing that's on the top of the roof that turns around depending on the wind. Weather vane?
Weather vane.
Yes, weather vane. Okay. So that's kind of a weather vane, and that's because it can turn around here. And then that's represent the fact that people don't know where they're going. There's no alignment, and that's also kind of reflected by those three things that go in different direction, with the three people maybe in that group that are actually going in opposite directions. And the whole thing is built on top of a very fragile core, which can collapse at any time, at any point in time. And um, yeah, I've seen a lot of teams where there is the sort of the illusion of alignment, and that illusion of alignment makes it that actually people are not working together; they're working side by side. There's no back to my point about a performing team. There's no intimacy, there's no connection in the team, so the whole construct of the team is very fragile. And at the end of the day, usually it doesn't perform well because it's hard enough to go in the same direction. So if you're going in the opposite direction, you're essentially harming yourself as a collective. Um, and there are a few ways to fix it. The first, I think at the heart, you need to make sure that the casting in the team is the right one. That's sometimes hard, but it may mean that some people are not the right fit for that team or that are not the right people for that team. That's something you need to fix first because if you keep those people in the team, it will prevent the rest of the group to make progress. But once you feel that the composition of the team or the team members are actually appropriate one, what's missing for them to have vision and alignment, then that's kind of a sort of easier because then whatever the leadership of the team or the team as a group, as a self-collective, can self-align and communicate and kind of move all together if I manage to do it to get back together more closely, if you see what I mean.
Yes. You put action into your model. This is so great. Frederic, how can you tell, specifically from a leadership perspective, if you're in, and I want to use your phrase, the illusion of alignment? Because that sounds like could be a very dangerous trap.
Well, usually it shows in many different ways. Like for instance, you make a decision either as a leader or as a group. You make a decision, and then everybody will say yes, 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 and you realize that there is no disagreeing and committing, even for those who are not for the decision. And that's a very let's say toxic to use a strong word, a very toxic thing that can happen in a group, because then people will say yes, I agree, and in practice won't support the decision and won't work in the direction of the decision. And that's even more a problem when it happens at leadership level, because of course they're going to be the one that reflects what's happening in the team. So that's an example of something that you need to pay very, very much attention to. And then sometimes you can just see, like in pure interpersonal relationship, people that clearly don't fit or clearly are not aligned with the values and the culture of the rest of the group, and that's usually very hard to fix. Well, and honestly, I've had many of those in time, and sometimes you give it a try, and you try and you provide feedback, and you try and make it work, and but once the trust is broken, or once that person has been kind of isolated by the rest of the group, we're very um, I mean, humans are like sheep to some extent. At some point, if someone gets out of the group, even if the others don't do it on purpose, it's very hard for that person to get back into the group. So it doesn't mean it's impossible. You can find solution by moving that person to another team if it was better, but it's usually very hard.
Would you go as far as to say, do you seek disagreement? Like if it's absent, is that a red flag? And you're like, hold on, I need to. Is that something you look for?
No, I don't think disagreement because I think there's disagreement. There's enough disagreement all the time. Like you always debate, you always discuss, you always have different opinions and different perspectives. And that's, by the way, one of the value of a diverse team to have a different people coming from different angle and different points of view. But that doesn't mean that at some point the decision needs to be made to say, okay, we everybody expressed their views and everybody shared their feedback, and now let's all go in that direction. And so I think that's the best way to do it. Constructive conversations are very important, but it doesn't have to be conflictual. It needs to be well communicated as a group. And that's also why, back to my point about intimacy, building that trust and that intimacy in the teams allows you to have those conversations in a way that doesn't break the cohesion of the team. And yeah, in the past 2 years, we've had quite a lot of newcomers in the exec team at Dashlane, and we spent a lot of time trying to rebuild that knowledge of each other as persons and understand where we're all coming from. We all have very different backgrounds. We have all different nationalities and different languages and different histories, and we spent quite a lot of time to build that because, especially in a leadership team like an exec team, you need to be really a cohesive group to be able to embark the whole company with you.
How do you know how much time you should be spending on? Because you have the business, you're running a business too, right? There's so much work to be done, and I think from my own experiences and talking to folks, right? There's so many. There's this project, there's this product, there's the customer, there's the market, there's all these things going on, and then you still have to find time to look at like the group dynamic, like how are
Yeah.
we as a team working together? Like how do you know A, like how much time should you be spending on that, and B, like when how do you know when you're not spending enough time on that, right? So I'd be just love to know your thoughts on this.
I think you don't know,
You don't.
and it's probably never enough. But at least there are signals that make you think that it's not enough. For instance, if to your point, like if in a meeting there is a heated heated disagreement where people start to be really um, antagonizing and they don't want to have a dialogue anymore, and that's probably a moment where you realize that okay, something hasn't been built properly so that you can have a dialogue and maintain the dialogue, whatever the difficulties. So that's an example, but I think you never know. So that's why I'm saying you need to be intentional about it, and there's ups and downs here. To your point, like sometimes you're in a rush, you don't have enough time, but then do catch up at some point. I think something that's been very hard also in the past few years is as we all remote, it's way harder to build that connection and build that social relationship being remote. So bringing people together, physically together, and spending time together. It can be, of course, workshops and stuff like this, but even spending social time together just to be together in social moments does matter a lot to have that experience, that shared experience. And
Yeah, so I'd love to step into that next. As we're clearly in a different world now than we were 5 years
yeah,
ago, and things have changed. There's more remote work. However, it just seems like we're just in a different world too. Like the digital tools are expanding
yeah.
exponentially, almost on a daily basis. How do you see teams? Do you feel like they're working differently than they were? And is it better? Is it worse? Is a little bit of each? How are you seeing overall kind of teamwork in general now versus 5 years ago?
Well, there's pros and cons of everything, right? To your point, like the ability to be able to work asynchronously, to be able to work remotely, to be able to have all those tools that allow you to do that has created a lot of flexibility in the way we work, a lot of flexibility in the way we live as well. I'm very happy to be working from home today and being able to have that podcast together. That wasn't possible 6, 7 years ago, or this was very different. So that's definitely a positive. On the flip side of that, and now you can meet very naturally with people that are on the other side of the world. Before that, you had to travel many hours to get there. So that's created a lot of flexibility and a lot of adaptability in the way we work. That's for sure, and very positive. I think there are functions as well where it has improved the productivity because you have less interruption and you can decide your rhythm of work in your own way and not like completely tied to the rhythm of work of the office, for instance. On the flip side, I think things that are very hard to build remotely are things like a culture, some kind of loyalty to an organization or a group. To my point earlier, the ability to know each other at a personal level, so that you have that ability to collaborate in a healthy way. Things like also like innovation and creativity are way harder remotely. I mean, it's so different to be in the same room on a whiteboard brainstorming about a complex problem, and then in a few hours of your brain fusing, you'll find a solution. Uh, Nothing has replaced that moment, and you can do Miro and you can do whiteboarding digitally, but it's not the same. It's not the same. So, and I've seen like so we went through a pretty intense return to office at Dashlane. At some point, going through COVID, we had started sort of having no rules and everybody could do whatever. We said, okay, it's actually went too much to the other extreme, and we're seeing that the fabric of Dashlane like dissolving. And that's not sustainable for the long term. So we said, okay, we need to go back to the office. We'll try to find a balance. So if you're, it's 3 days in the office and you have 2 days of flexibility, which I think is a pretty good balance because then it's still a bit of trying to have the majority of the time in person, but you have some time for flexibility. But I think it was very healthy. I mean, it was important to do that. It's been a bit hard because the employees, to be honest, have struggled doing that and have had a hard time going back to more constraints to some extent and more commute and stuff like this. But I can see like in the few years after COVID, I had so much mental health issues in the team that were really sad to see, and we had a really hard time as an organization to support those people and so on. And that's really gone down, and now with people going back, and you have your social family and friends network, but you also need your work social network to support you on a daily basis, and you actually spend almost more time with your social work network than with your personal network. So yeah. So I don't know. Things are going to keep evolving, but I think it's a balance. You need the moderation in everything, and we've gone too much on the one side, and we'll see. We'll see how things evolve.
I love how you phrase it. It's an experiment. Like we don't really know. It's like we tried one thing and went too far the other direction. Now we're going to try this,
Yeah.
and we don't know right what things
No, we
might look
don't
like
know.
2-3 years from now. But I do see, and I like how you point out there's specific things that there's more productivity. Like from an individual basis, right? When you can be home and you have that flexibility, but there is a cost that
Yeah.
comes within innovation, creativity, social togetherness, and that seems like it's a very right, like you said, it's balance. You kind of have to choose that slide where you want to be on the part. Uh, I'd love to hear about. So thinking of your leadership journey, you've definitely had a variety, some different roles over your time. Um, as you came up through leadership, in fact, I want to specifically ask about kind of let's go to your role as CTO. Um, is it what you thought it would be? I think is the question. If so, right, yay. How did that kind of play out for you? And if not, what was different, and what was the shift that maybe you didn't see coming?
Maybe you're going to be surprised by that, but the role of a CTO isn't a single thing. It's actually a very dynamic and and moving role. Just to give you a few examples, um, being a CTO at Dashlane 9 years ago when we were an early stage startup was of course nothing comparable to what I was as a CTO a few years later when we had gone through hypergrowth. It's actually even different today where essentially my role as a CTO is more focused on go-to-market and supporting our sales and marketing team help develop Dashlane than day-to-day engineering delivery. So that's I think one of the things I like in that role is that it's actually never always different, never the same, and that of course there are commonalities and the challenges that remain the same. I mean, people management is people management, whatever the variations in people management. Technology remains technology at the heart of the role that you have, but the way you express it and the way you spend your time is actually very different depending on the period of your career. So that's been very interesting for me, and I really enjoy being in that role of technical leadership in a sense.
So I think we've got time for one more build. Are you game for one more build?
Yeah, sure.
So, Frederic, for your last build, what I'd like you to do is think of someone going into their first leadership role. We'll say it's a technical leadership role. I want you to build a model that would show what advice would you give someone going into their first technical leadership role.
Okay.
Frederic, let's see your advice model.
Okay, let's see. So it's sort of a staircase to reflect the fact that it's a journey with different steps, and so you need to take one step at a time, and you shouldn't try and rush too far. I really like. There's a book called The Manager Path from Camille Fournier, which is a great reading in engine leadership. And she has actually a chapter for all those different paths. So she said, okay, you're an IC, you want to learn about what it means to be a manager. First, look at what your manager is doing, and then you get into management. And there is a chapter going up all those stairs. So it's a journey. You need to do it one step at a time, and of course, as part of the journey, you're going to learn different things. The reason why there's those little things that go on the side is for me to reflect the fact that it's not a journey that you have to do alone. And of course, when you go into leadership, especially when you get into VPs and CTO roles and so on, you're more and more alone because there's fewer and fewer peers in your organization that are doing the same role as you are. And so you need to reach out outside of your network, or you need to go into your network, reach out to other people that are doing the same. That's how you get the learning. That's how you get also the ability to brainstorm on your practices and learn from others. And I would even argue that's why I put a longer bar at the top here is that the more you grow in that leadership journey, the further away you extend your network and the further away you need to extend your network. Because, for instance, for me today, of course, yesterday morning I was at the New York CTO Club. We have a breakfast every month, and that was very fun. And I'm with other CTOs and VPs in the engineering world and so on. But I also need to learn from my CFO, from the marketing team, and so on. So your your experience and your skills and your know-how are built from all those lessons from everybody. So yeah, take the journey as a step. You're not alone. Get help and coaching from others, and that's how you get it. But I mean, I've been in let's say leadership positions for the past I don't know at this point like 20 years, 15 years, and I still keep learning every day, and every day is a new thing, and I force myself to keep learning.
There's so many pieces of advice in that model. Thank you so much, Frederic. So I have to ask, what was it like to share your thoughts and ideas via Lego bricks?
Yeah, it's very nice. I mean, I told you like I'm a very much of a Lego fan myself, and the whole family is Lego fans. I've been doing a lot of Lego play myself, yeah, across many years, mostly around Agile and Lego for Scrum and this type of thing. And we've actually mixed this with Kapla when we didn't have enough Legos. So yeah, I love to use games as a way to learn and as a way to spend time together. And yet, yeah, right now I have a part of the team that's organizing a code dojo. It's also a great way, for instance, to play with code. There's no intention beyond the fact that there's a game. It can be sort of a capture the flag. It can be a maze search. It can be playing with different versions of code. So fun is important in life for sure.
That's fantastic. Well, Frederic, where can people find you outside of this podcast and the internets?
Well, you can probably Google me. I'm pretty visible there. You can look at the Dashlane blog. I write quite a lot on the Dashlane blog, both on technical topics and on non-technical topics. I just shared yesterday or the day before the fact that we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary of our bug bounty on HackerOne. So it's very specific, but 10 years of security, working with security researchers on bug bounties is quite fun. So,
Fantastic. Wonderful. Well, we'll include links to those in our show notes for our audience. Frederic, thank you so much for joining us.
thank you
And
for
thank
having
you,
me.
our audience, for joining us on Herding Squirrels, where we uncover the nuts and bolts of teams. See you next time.